Welcome back. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Cymarshall Law Show, where we stay true to ourselves and never ever conform. Today, we have a very, very special guest in the house. He's been a cornerstone in the hip-hop community for decades. He's been a legendary super Latin rapper, a beatboxer, a record producer who has worked with some of the biggest names in the industry. You might know him from his incredible beatboxing skills in the classic film 8 Mile, or his collaborations with Jurassic 5 and Styles of Beyond. But today we're diving deeper into the life and career of the one and only Click Tha Supah Latin, also known as Anthony Rivera. Click has not only made a name for himself as a performer, but also built a successful career as a sound engineer with his own company, Click Sound. He's been instrumental in setting up stages and engineering sound for countless shows, including the one I recently performed at in Los Angeles. His journey from a beatboxer to a renowned sound engineer is nothing short of inspiring, and we are thrilled to have him share his stories and insights with us today. Click's story is one of resilience, creativity, passion. Born in Chula Vista, California, and raised in Lennox and Hawthorne, California. Beginning his career as a beatboxer, producing remixes for artists like the Mexakinz and Delinquent before launching his solo career in '96. Throughout his career, Click consistently pushed the boundaries of hip-hop, appearing in films like She's All That and Malibu's Most Wanted. Listen, his innovative approach to music and sound has left an indelible mark on the industry, but his contributions to hip-hop extend beyond his performances. As a sound engineer, he has founded Click Sound, a company dedicated to building stages and setting up shows with top-notch engineering and equipment. Come on, his expertise and commitment to excellence have made him a sought-after professional in this industry. Today we celebrate Click Tha Supah Latin's incredible journey and his enduring impact on the hip-hop community, from his early days as a beatboxer to right now. Let's get into it. Click's story is a testament to the power and passion and perseverance you gotta have to make it in this world. Click, thank you for joining the show. What's good, my brother?
What's up?
Yeah. Yo, thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate and super grateful to have you on the show.
It's my honor, man, my honor.
No doubt. Yo, so the fans might not know, the listeners might not know, I was recently introduced to Click through his son, brother Maz, who's also called Click Tha Supah Latin. Tech through a show in Los Angeles and booked me for the show. I hadn't been to LA in about 10 years. And since I've been booked for that show, a lot of good things have been happening. So I appreciate Tech. I appreciate his pops, Click Tha Supah Latin. So we're going to get into the interview. So I wanted to give the audience a wide range of everything you've done, everything that I was able to find, and even some cooler stuff I didn't know about you as I was doing my research. So I was like, wow, this guy's been everywhere, been doing everything. Yo, can you tell us about your early days as a beatboxer and like how you started in the hip hop scene?
Well, beatboxing, if I'm not mistaken, is around '84. I heard the Fat Boys first. Dougie, from what I know, came out first. He was around first. But Fat Boys just blew up. So popularity wise and commercial wise, they were everywhere. At the beginning, like I started off more as a b-boy. It was probably around '81, maybe '82. I was in a band in middle school and I played the clarinet, and they had like this showcase. And this one particular night, the curtains was closed and we're all, in our seats to get ready to play our instruments.
Right.
And right before us, there was a dude popping. I ain't never seen popping in my life. And all I knew was that the lights went dark and the strobe light came on, because you could see the strobe light from the side of the curtains that were a little bit open. And people were just screaming. And so I peeked out and there was this Crip. His name was Mr. And it was bananas. I never saw anything like that. And that was my first contact with hip hop.
Nice.
And then a little bit after that, there was a TV show called That's Incredible. And I want to say it was a New York City Breakers was on there. and then I saw breaking, and dudes just spinning on their heads and on their back and stuff, and
Yeah.
and I thought it was stupid. But then a month later, I got my cardboard in the front yard and I'm practicing backspins.
Yeah.
I was okay as a b-boy, but then when I heard beatbox, it just, I don't know, it just, the good thing about back then is that if you were involved in the culture, you dabble in every element, whether you
Right.
drew a little bit, rapped a little bit, danced a little bit, DJed a little bit. So it's like you had something to choose from. But beatboxing, when that came out, man, it blew me away because I didn't know that you could do that. And mind you, I'm a young kid, so I remember being in the back of my dad's car, and I was trying to imitate Buff, just
Yeah.
and that sound that he did, you have to practice a lot. As goofy as it may sound, that there's a way to do it that if you don't put the time, you're never going to get it to sound that way.
Right.
So I used to do that a lot. And my dad, I was in the back seat just going at it. And at one point he just says, "Ya pareces enfermo." And that just means, stop already. You sound sick. And so he never told me to quit. He just said at that time, just, okay, enough already. And that was my beginning beatboxing, man.
Well, luckily you didn't quit.
Yeah, and he realizes that too.
Luckily for us. Is Mr. still around doing stuff? Do you know?
You know what? No, I lost track of him. As soon as we got into high school, at that age, you go your own way, and I was a knucklehead, so I wasn't even going to school really, So I don't know where anyone else landed, but he was the first dude, and the track that he danced to was Zap, Heard It Through the Grapevine, and it was embedded. So from that point on, even today. Because I could pop a little bit until you get a few drinks, you get on the floor, and but that song. Anytime that I had my shows back in the day, I had popping routines with my kids. We would always use "Heard It Through the Grapevine" because it just has that thing,
So speaking of you growing up and sometimes being a knucklehead, what was it like growing up in Lennox and Hawthorne, and how did it influence your music?
I don't really think it influenced my music, but I was always how can I don't want to say nerdy because nerdy is the wrong word. I was like in my own world. You know what I mean? When boys were interested in girls, like I wanted to be the best marble player. My imagination was just always on 10. There was a TV show called Kung Fu back in the day. And I remember the intro of the TV show, it would show him walking on like rice or something, but not leaving his footsteps on the sand or whatever it was.
Cane.
Yeah, man, I would try to do that, like because I thought you could do that.
Right.
There's a kung fu movie that I watched once, and this dude jumped on top of like this open wicker basket and was walking along the edges of it. You know what I mean? I was like, man, one day that's how my imagination was. It was always somewhere else, man. So, so when it came to living in Lennox, and Lennox, at that time it was gang infested, but it's almost like I know it's there, but that's not what I'm into. I'm trying to, jump on a swing and see how high I can go, and then jump off and see how far I can land. And it just, my mind was just being a kid. So I don't really have, as far as my music, it didn't stem from my growing up in Lennox or in Hawthorne. So
how about? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
How about your family background from Peru? Did that influence your musical journey at all?
Not really. Well, you know what? Well, yes, but not my musical journey in terms of hip hop, because my dad listened to everything. We'd be in my dad's car, and he would listen to country, rock, pop, jazz, soul, everything. And he loved to dance. So anything that can make you dance, that's what he loved listening to. So I got a variety of music. So my taste in music is wide. Now hip hop introduced me more deeper. Like, okay, you had your Cool and the Gangs, and then you had your Charlie Daniels band, and then you had, you know, study named Paul Williams, and you know the Carpenters. Like these are the stars, right? And of course, like Lou Rawls' biggest hit is "You'll Never Find,"
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know to what extent his catalog was. Like,
Right.
there's so much music that he put out with legendary jazz musicians that I'm going, why ain't they playing that? Why do they just keep playing You'll Never Find? Great
Right.
song, but man, he has a catalog.
Right.
And so I attribute that to hip hop.
Mm.
Hip hop, because everyone's looking for that dope sample. You don't care what record you pick up. You don't care if it's Kenny Loggins or if it's some opera record. You don't care. You know what I'm saying? So it's that's why I have over 8,000 records in my garage, because
Sheesh.
it just stems from me trying to find something. And because of hip hop, I was introduced to a lot of music that I probably would have never found.
Mm. How did your name come about? Click Tha Supah Latin. How did you share the story of how that name came about?
So Click, the name Click was given to me by this cat named Shasha. He was a beatboxer from New York that I met in high school. And that dude is probably the best I've ever heard, you know, at the time. Like, you know, you're in today's standards, if you had today's greatest beatboxers and you had him, he probably wouldn't match up now because it's elevated so high.
Right.
but if he would have really chose to do his thing for real,
Yeah.
he definitely would have outshined me because he was like a natural. It didn't matter what song you heard, and his vocal range was just, it was bananas. So anyway, at that time when I met him, I was working on doing the clicks, you know, Dougie Fresh's clicks,
Yeah.
and I had him so good, man. He was like, "Yo, man, I'm gonna call you Click Master," but you know that name is just too long, so it just became Click. Hey, Click, Click. So now, fast forward years later, I'm working on a demo, and in one of my rhymes, I had said something like, you know, I'm a super Latin bringing fake MCs to their knees, and but whatever. And so when I listened back to the recording, that super Latin part just kept, you know, it just kept resonating.
Right.
And then, you know, and I was going, well, there's J. Rue the Damager, you know, there's all these other artists that have that little tag. And I
Right.
said, Click the Super Latin. I go, I don't know, it's one of those names that some people were like, that's kind of corny. Other people's like, no, it just rolls off your tongue. And I realized that no matter what side of that you were on, it was so different that you're not going to forget it. Because you're either going to remember Click or you're going to remember Super Latin. Because there's been people who just say, hey, Super Latin, and they forget the Click part. And so people just call me Click and not the Super Latin part. So it's just it's an unforgettable name, you know.
It is. It is. It is. How did you end up transitioning though from the beatboxer to the producer? Like, where did that?
Oh man, I honestly, I believe I was a producer first. Well, I mean, well, I heard again when I heard Buff and I was practicing that part, I didn't know that I was going to get as good as I got. So from the point of me learning how to beatbox and getting like joining a crew for the very first time, they had a friend who had a drum machine or whose father had a drum machine, and I picked up that real fast. So it's almost like if we started at the same time, beatboxing and production.
Right.
But it just felt right. Like, you know, there's a docu series on Celia Cruz that came out a few years back, and I was watching it, and there's a scene where she keeps having these dreams, and these African drums are they're going at it.
Yeah.
And she said the drums are calling me, and that's how I felt when it came to making beats. I just felt like it's calling me. I don't know where it's coming from, but it's calling me, and I gravitated to beats like quickly. Right. But yeah, that's so they're probably around the same time, man. Around the same time, you know, I didn't have to gravitate like, oh, and then two, the concepts in my head about making beats translate into my beatboxing when I do beatbox. I hear fills. You know what I'm saying, when I do drums, I hear pauses or breakdowns, and I really wish that I could get it out of my head the way I hear it in my head, because in my head it's so much more elevated, you know.
Are there like different beatboxing techniques that you can go to?
In
Or
terms of
like say I'm producing a beat, I can produce like a Pete Rock beat, a J Dilla beat, all different types of beats. Are there is beatboxing like that as well? Like are there different styles of beatboxing?
well, I think that there's people who like a lot of people. To me, Rozell's a beatboxer, but he has a library of sound effects.
Hmm.
And he mixes that well with what he does. When I came up during the time, I mean, I think me and Rozell came up during the same time in terms of hearing hip hop and beatboxing. But you know, during my era coming up, it was imitating songs. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't just well, for me, it wasn't making up original beats. It was literally mimicking, popular songs.
Right.
And so that became something that I just started doing. Rozell, I believe in that dude. He could rock an original beat for 30 minutes, but he has these breakdowns that it don't feel like 30 minutes. Like
Right.
it's incredible. Kenny Muhammad is more drums. Like he got the dopest drums I think I ever heard. A lot of the new cats now though are doing a lot more sound effects, a lot more tricks.
Mm.
Um, so there's a variety. I'm not a fan of the new stuff because I feel like it's just always too fast. Um, in my day, you had a variety of tempos. You don't just do drum and bass for the whole time. It gets kind of monotonous.
Right.
But no, there's definitely a lot of techniques. My strongest point, right, has always been my imitation of songs. Um, I look at being in the crowd and watching how they react to songs that they recognize. Like one of the biggest ones is when I do the Tom Tom Club, Genius of Love. It never fails. Computer Love never fails. If you're a hip hop head and I do Funky Enough, or I do this joint called Numbers. If you go back that far, you'd be like, oh shit, and so, but
Can,
yeah.
can you pick one and do a piece now?
Well, Tom Tom Club is, let's see if I can do it to.
Nice, nice, nice. Dope, 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 real dope. Thank you, thank you. Let me give you
Oh,
some
you're
more.
welcome.
What was it like recording the beatbox overdubs for the film 8 Mile? How did that come about? What was that like?
Well, at that time, my name was bubbling. Like, if ask anybody in LA, who's a beatboxer, like my name always came up. And so at this particular time, I was actually, I think, in my front yard fixing my fence or something, and I got a call from an agent or a producer that needed a beatboxer. I didn't even audition. They just called me, and I came in, and I got the part. Obviously, but it was cool. Um, it was my first time having to sync my beatboxing to a visual on the screen. You know what I mean? And
Mm,
that was cool. Um, I mean, at that time, man, I was in my prime, so I was on point. So
yeah.
anyway, I do the beatbox piece, and obviously I get paid. Uh, well, here's a tip for anybody who even gets that far.
Huh.
Like, if you could go without getting paid, and you do a beatboxing and original piece, just don't get paid and just tell them you want the publishing on your piece. I get royalty checks now, but because I got paid, it's like you sign off on the publishing side of it.
Ah,
So they own the beatbox now. They have to pay me because they play it and it's my voice, but
yeah.
they own it instead of me owning that piece.
That is
Um,
cool. I hope
yeah,
someone picks that
yeah,
up and actually does right by. Oh man,
yeah,
that could
yeah.
save a lot of people.
Oh, brother. I mean, the thing is, of course, I have kids. I got a mortgage payment, so at the time, I did need the money. So,
Right,
and it
right.
was good. It was good money. The crazy part about the business, though, is I'm still good, but back then I was in my prime, man. So I worked quick. I was very efficient. You may think I'm gonna have to be in there for an hour. I'm in and out 10 minutes. I just knew what I was doing from prior experiences because I used to do radio spots for the warehouse music chain. And I would go in there and knock out 40 spots in a certain amount of time. And they would just look at me like, man, you're good, you know?
This guy's a monster.
Yeah. And so with 8 Mile, it was the same thing. I went in there, did my thing, left, and then I get a call later on, a week or so, 2 weeks later, that the guy who syncs the beatbox of the film, so it, looks right. I guess he messed up on something, and I had to go back and redo it. But it was a Sunday, so it was double pay. And the producers were mad because they didn't want to have to pay me double pay because they had to pay me for a certain amount of time.
Right.
And I was talking with my attorney at the time that was at SAG, and he was telling them not just because they kept saying it only took him like 10 minutes. Why you gotta pay, And he was like, look, man, he's good at what he does. He saved you studio time. He's efficient, blah, blah, blah. And they got pissed, and then they had said something about like blackballing me from, doing any more work in Hollywood kind of a thing. And I was like, well, not that I don't want to be in films, but it wasn't my priority. So it's like, okay, whatever. So I go back and I do it again, but this time Eminem's there. Now, this is only my assumption. Only my assumption.
Right.
I walk in there, I meet him, and so I get to work. And first take, right? I was like, okay, I just knocked it out. And Eminem was like, it's cool, it's good, man. But like when I say mustard, the snare is like a little late. I'm like, all right, cool, do it again. Run it again. And I do whatever I think I'm supposed to be doing to make it land on beat. And then he goes, it's almost there, man. Like, it's almost there, And in my head, I'm going, bro, this is a freestyle on film. And if anybody knows, ain't nothing going to be perfect in a freestyle with a beatboxer and a rapper. So I go, okay, I'll do it again. I knocked it up, like did 3 or 4 more takes. And he was just kind of like, it's cool, man. It's cool. We'll just leave it. And I'm sitting there going like, you're being an asshole. That's what you're doing. You're trying to get your money's worth.
Right. Right.
Now I knew that I hit that dang thing on point. And now again, I'm only speculating. He may not have been doing that, but that's what it made me feel like. I know what I do, and I know how good I am. So
right. You know what it felt like as well. Sometimes just the feeling is all you need.
Yeah.
How did you end up getting involved in? Because I guess I don't know if these happened before or after that, but how did you end up getting involved in She's All That and Malibu's Most Wanted?
So She's All That. They were asking around for a beatboxer. My name surfaced. I auditioned for some people, and they were like, "Okay, cool. You don't need rappers." I go, "Yeah." So I hit up my boy Akil from Jurassic 5. But one of the requirements for that film is that we had to shave off our facial hairs because we're supposed to be high school kids.
Right.
Akil didn't want to do that. So, and he was like, I ain't doing that. I go, okay, whatever. So then I called Top Beer from Styles of Beyond. And so he was like, oh, no, I'm down. And so we knocked that part out. It wasn't difficult at all because once they found me and they knew they wanted to use me, finding the other rappers was not a problem.
Right.
But now Malibu's Most Wanted, I was doing work for Nike. Nike was doing these events called Battlegrounds. And Battlegrounds is like a one-on-one basketball tournament.
I think I remember.
Man, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's son was in it, and a few other heavyweight cats was in it. So I was booked because at the time, again, my name's bubbling. And I had done some smaller stuff for Nike. But this is the big one. This was huge. Yeah. It was at Venice Beach, man. And so John Sally was hosting it. Now, the thing was, I'm supposed to come up and battle this other host, and he would rhyme, I would rhyme, he would rhyme, I'd rhyme. And then I beat him with the beatbox.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, cool. So I go up there and I'm doing my thing, and it didn't go as planned. Like John Sally didn't know the script.
Right.
And so I go, the other guy goes, and I go, the other guy goes, and then I lose. And but at the time really I was not really a rapper. I'm a beatboxer.
Right.
And so John Sully, okay, the winner, and he names the other guy the winner. And then I go, hey man, I go, yo, I'm supposed to beatbox. And John Sully, he gets on the mic, he's like, okay, y'all, Click wants to beatbox, but he said it just like that. And
Right.
so of course now I'm going like, oh, you punking me, like you making me look soft.
Yeah.
So I get the mic and I do my beatbox piece. The crowd goes nuts, and I leave, but I'm pissed. I'm pissed because I felt disrespected.
Right.
And so on a side note, at this battlegrounds was so dope that I wanted to get a couple of basketballs for my kids, as souvenirs, and they would never let me get them.
Mm.
And so that day I'm like, no, I'm taking two. And so I grabbed two basketballs and I'm leaving because I don't want to be there now. I'm pissed. Yeah. And I'm walking away, and this lady grabs me from the back of my shirt. She's like, hey. And I said, I just turned around and she's like, listen, you were awesome. She goes, I got a friend who's doing this film. I think you'd be perfect for it. So he gives me her card, and it ends up being Jamie Kennedy doing Malibu's Most Wanted. So I go down there, audition, they loved it, and then they put me. I filmed a piece, but it didn't make the film. And if you watch the deleted scenes,
right,
and you see what I do, and then you compare it to like the movie and what was there, I didn't fit because it was almost like not well. He's making fun of hip hop to a degree,
right?
And so my beatboxing, I wasn't. My beatboxing, even though the bad part about my piece though for me is that my strong point is imitating songs. But if I can't imitate songs, then I have to try to do something more original. And I wasn't prepared for that part because the thing is, if I would have did, let's say 5 joints that you recognize, well, the production company would have had to pay royalties for those songs. It'd been more another expense.
That makes sense.
But also my vibe and what I did still did not fit the movie, the visual of it, because it was had that corniness to it here and there. Yeah. And so for me to come in there, it's almost like, nah, it don't work. Though he's no beatboxer, but it just didn't work. So then they replaced it with more of a gangster rap scene battle,
Right.
But it was cool. I mean, it was definitely an experience, and much love to Jamie Kennedy because at that time I had done enough film work that I had to become a member of SAG, and I believe at the time it was like $1,300 to become a member. And this time I could not do the film unless I became a member. Right. So I told Jamie Kennedy's camp and them, I go, hey, I'm not a member yet. It's going to cost me this much. Just apply my payment to that if you could cover it. And they covered that, and they still paid my day rate, man. And so much respect to Jamie Kennedy and them.
I love that story. Gotta give the air horns for that one. Click, how would you say the Los Angeles music scene has changed from the time you were coming up to now? You were kind of telling me about it, about 3 weeks ago when I saw you, but the audience doesn't know what you told me. So.
As far as what? As far as the hip hop scene or the music scene?
The hip hop scene.
Okay. So, I mean, LA is, well, I'm not sure if it's everywhere, but I know for me, LA's been very cliquish. It's always been cliquish. And I get it.
Unintended.
Yeah, but it's something was missed. Somebody dropped the ball. It could be us. It could be the older generation. There's a lot of cats who made it to a certain degree and still ain't done, and they want to keep trying to make it, and they forget to pass down knowledge to the up and comers. So when I go to a show sometimes and I see the openers, like I'm really bothered by the lack of quality performances. You could not be a great rapper, but your presence, the things that you can really adjust, it's almost like they just don't know what to do. They're just
right.
They see Rakim walking across the stage rapping, but that's his persona. But to them, it's like, oh, okay, that's how you do that. You grab the mic and you walk across the stage back and forth, and you don't really engage with the crowd much. You just my rhymes are going to get the job done per se. And
right.
I see a lot of young cats, man, that just don't. They don't use their personality because they assume or perceive hip hop to be so street that you got to be hardcore.
Right.
And I mean I love my era because at my era like everybody just did their thing. And yeah, you had to have a certain hardness to it per se, but you know, when you had Tribe wasn't like Heavy D, and Heavy D wasn't like Rakim.
Facts.
Rakim wasn't like KRS. And I love that you can look around and go, oh, that's uniquely different. Everybody's individual.
Right.
But now it's like everybody focuses on the money side. What's making money? So I'm gonna do that. We in one of our backyard parties, Tech had booked a guy, and I could tell, and it was early on the backyard parties, but I could tell that he came with the perception of like, okay, I got to do something that the crowd's gonna like, versus going, listen, I'm just gonna do me, and hopefully y'all like it. You know what I mean? And so he came on, and he was rapping over his own vocals. And this may be the second party in, man, and the vibe was always good. But Tech stopped him. He's like, no, listen, man, we don't do that here. You know, and my heart dropped because I'm going, oh man, the vibe's gonna be bad now, and people are gonna. But the text that we had to say, and the guy, I swear, he looked like he was just stunned. Like, did you just stop in the middle of my show? Like, what am I gonna do? And the DJ threw on the next track, and the dude just went off, and it was like, yes, and the crowd cheered. And it's like, we need people to still learn, you know, teach the next generation. Sometimes they don't want to listen because they're just old heads. But there's a lot of cats out there, man, that really do want to learn. Right. You know? And I think that with the LA hip hop, as far as quality shows, we need to teach better, man. We also need to be able to give up space. There's a lot of older heads out here that get a chance to get on stage, and they want to hog up all the time.
Right.
You know, it's just, I don't know, man. You know, I've always been like an outcast to a degree, so I don't frequent a lot of shows anymore. I show up if I felt like I need to be there, or I got to support this one dude or whatever. But you know, and again, I'm not sure if this is the same in New York or you know, in the South. But it's changed, man. I don't feel like there's a lot of enjoyment as it was during the golden era, you know?
Right. Is there a way you can see it going back to when the good times were rolling?
You know what? Yeah. You know what? I honestly think that that's what we're accomplishing with Gemwork Fest. Gemwork Fest exists for the independent artists. You don't have to be well known to get on Gemwork Fest. Actually, it's better if you aren't well known, because it's the element of surprise. You know what I mean? Like we're quickly developing a reputation to where you come to a Gemwork show, and it's literally one of the best shows of unknown talent that you don't even know that happens. You get this vibe, this energy, and everybody's different, you know, and that's due to my son. My son has the time, I guess, or the desire to literally listen to as much music as he can, and starts handpicking people, you know, and he don't go, okay, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm just going to grab all the 10s. Like, he'll literally go, okay, I'm going to grab a few of these 10s, I'm going to grab a few 6s, and maybe even 1, 3, or 4, because that 1, 3, or 4 needs to be around the 6s, the 7s, the 8s, 9s, and 10s to pick up on how it's done. Literally, we've had some cats back here, young, man, that come and they do their thing, and, you know, they're, and then you see them 2 weeks later, and it's like, holy shit. Right. Like, you got like 5 times better. Right. You know, and it's because you're being around that part. So I feel like being unselfish with this thing, man, is going to make the culture produce greater artists. So I do see it coming back around. Big shout out to Tech, man. What is it like seeing Tech the Supah Latin following your footsteps? It's cool, man. You know, the funny thing, like a side part of that would be that we look so much alike. When he started coming around, you know, doing his own music, and I was trying to get him out there more, we would go to places where these people ain't seen me in years, and he'd be up walking ahead of me, and they would think he was me, and then they would see me, and they'd be like, you know, Tech has a line in one of his songs. He says, "Me and Pops out here looking like stunt doubles." And that's the funniest shit, man. But it's good. You know, the crazy thing about being a parent, and I'm only speaking for me. I'm not sure if it's the same with everybody else, but like Tech is 35 years old, And for some reason in my head, I can't get him out from being 18, 19, 20. So when I see him, sometimes I approach him like he's still 18, 19, 20 years old.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to correct him on things, or I've been trying to like not be dominant, but just being dad, you know. And I forget, like, no, you're 35. Like, no, you know better. You know better. And so it's a trip being a parent, man. But watching him work, and actually upholding the name Super Latin, because even though I said it in a rhyme and I used it, back then my work ethic was bananas. So you would, you know, I had my recording studio. I would mix and master all my own stuff, produce all my own music. I would come up with different routines for the show. And because I used to be able to break dance, sometimes in my show, man, you never knew if I was going to catch a head spin or not. And it looked crazy because at that time I'm 240, 250, but I was hitting some nice head spins.
Right.
And I was also on Power 106 as a radio DJ. I did so many things. So to call myself a Super Latin, it was fitting.
It was fitting.
Now, when Tech came around doing his own music, he carried on the name because we're trying to build a legacy brand, but he didn't work as hard on being an artist and doing the things that an artist needs to do to get out there more. He did some of the work, but he didn't go in like I went in.
Right.
And so a part of me for a little while was like, man, you know, in my head, I'm going, saying Super Latin, but man, he really ain't putting the work in. Like I want him to put the work in and really reflect that side of it. And then he jumped into creating a podcast and then building Gemwork Radio. And then he's in love with creating Gemwork Fest. Mm-hmm. This dude books all the acts, listens to all the music, does all the flyers, all the promotions, and he's putting in the work right now. Like I've never seen him work this hard, and so I know it's going to work. But that's one element where I'm going, nah, you a Super Latin,
yeah.
You know.
It feels like it. When I was around you guys, it felt like a whole Super Latin vibe. And I definitely got that vibe off of Tech. He feels like a workhorse. I love it. That's why I like him so much. It just, the passion is jumping off of him.
Yep.
I feel it. So kind of switching into your Click Sound, the sound stage, can you tell me, I mean, again, you told me, but I want the people to hear this.
Mm-hmm.
How did Click Sound, what is Click Sound? And how did you get involved in it? And, you know, where is it today?
Well, okay, so Click Sound started, man, I didn't even know I was going to have a company. We were going to church heavily at the time, and the pastor wanted to do ministry work at like different parks and stuff. And so I was like, Pastor, you should buy a stage because, you know, it's expensive to rent a stage.
Right.
And he goes, well, look for one. And I go, well, I'll look for one. I'll try to find you one. And so I started looking and I found an old stage. There was a brother in the church that was like, hey, when you do, let me know. I'll pay half. Like, all right. So I found this stage for $300, man. Old stage. And I go back and I told the brother from the church and he was like, oh, I can't do it right now. And so I'm like, all right, I'll do it. So I bought the stage. I brought it home and started fixing it up to make it look nice. And then as soon as people knew I had it, they wanted to book it. And it just grew. Right. So then I go back to the guy I bought those stages from and bought more stages, fixed those up. And, you know, I DJ'd a wedding one time or a party at a banquet hall. And at the end of it, they were cleaning up the tables and stuff. And this one dude took the linen off the table and it was literally a piece of plywood that was cut in a circle. There was nothing pretty about it but the linen on top. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay. So then I started buying real short hair outdoor carpeting to put over the stage so you couldn't see the flaws in the stage, the color of the stage. And then I was skirted so you couldn't see the legs of the stage because it was a stage from the 80s, man. Mm-hmm. But I mean, anyway, the business started taking off. I always loved sound. So I started buying audio gear. I'd start off with cheap gear, use it, sell it, use that money with whatever I saved to buy better gear. Right. And better. I'm still doing that. And then it I've always had a problem with different sound people during my career because I'm going, dude, this is hip hop. Like it's literally two turntables and a microphone. Like what's the issue? And it was apparent that they just wanted to get paid. They didn't care about the art or the music.
Right.
And I do. And so it was easy to go from having a studio to a live sound company. But it just kept growing, man. It just kept growing. And, I've always been a hard worker and I've always had integrity with anything that I've tried to do.
Yeah.
And so my customer service has always been the bread and butter. That they have clients right now that will not call anybody else. I don't care if they charge them half the rate.
Nice.
But again, the company just kept growing, and here we are, man. It's been about 16, 17 years, and literally I can work when I want. I got more time to chill with my wife. I quit my regular job about almost 3 years ago. I was literally, man, I was literally working my regular job, get off, do a click sound thing for the whole weekend. And I was working so much on the weekends that there was times where I would start to work on Friday or get off of work at my regular job, do click sound all the way till Monday and maybe sleep 2 hours in that weekend. And I did that for so long, man, where I ended up getting congestive heart failure. And that made me slow down. But then when I was able to finally quit my job, that was the biggest blessing, man, because I feel like there was a lot of weight that got lifted off me, a lot of pressure. Thank God I had the clients that I had to be able to survive. So we're in a good space now.
Right. Click, what are some of the most memorable shows you've engineered sound for?
Oh, man. One would probably be, I mean, there's many, but one would probably be, we did the 805 Funk Fest, and one of the artists, well, three of the artists that were there, it was Zap, it was Zap, SOS Band, and one other, I can't remember what the other one, I can't remember what the other one was, but Zap, like, and they had their own engineer, but just being able to facilitate the sound for that, like Zap's show is I've never seen a show like that. The second one would probably be Inglewood's Earth Day, and that was like the year before COVID hit, and it was Kenny Lattimore, Confunction, Shanice, Eric Benet. That one was definitely memorable in two ways, right? The good way is just, oh man, I reached this level where I'm running sound for like these stars, like holy shit. The bad part is that they're stars, so they want to be treated like stars, and they want a certain, the way you can't just go, hey, what's up? It's I don't know, man. It was very stressful. It's very stressful. And so I prefer not to do those. They pay well, but I just I'm not I don't know how to say this right, but I like the humbleness of people. I try to remain that way. People are like, oh, Click, you're a legend. I don't feel like one, number one. I just did what I did when I did it, and it panned out how it panned out. So I don't feel like I'm better than you. You know what I'm saying? So when I encounter people who have that in them, and whether they're arrogant with it or not, like you can tell. You know what I'm saying, when people approach. But my daughter has her own salon and stuff, and prior to that, she had worked with certain celebrities for makeup and stuff. And some of them just kind of like, hey, and like, what the hell is this? I don't like that, man. So it's been stressful, but those would probably be some of the most memorable shows, man. They to be able to say I reached that status, I don't care if it's for one day, to be able to reach there and you're handing Eric Benet a mic, and your Confunction's managers telling you, and it's dope. It's dope.
I love it. I love to hear those stories. You have a lot of stories, though. You told me around the table. Can you tell me your experiences with Rozelle, and KRS-One for that matter, because you told me some wonderful.
Oh man, KRS. So in my early days, I was involved with KD Performing Arts, and so KD, the famous station out here in LA, they had a performing arts section where they took kids from the city or us, the performers, and they would go to different cities. You know, we represent KD, but still, it gave us something to do. Number one, and number two, the communities needed to see that. So it was beautiful being a part of that. Ice Cube was in there early on, right when I got there, he was already gone. Sir Jinx was still around. Jewel Caples, who was one of the singers for Death Row, she was around there. Um, I had a chance to really meet some great artists at the time. So I'm in the car one day, and KRS is doing an interview, and like I'm a big fan, so I'm going. I know where the station is. I'm gonna roll up there. So I rolled up there. I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. I had my demo and everything. And Tech was probably about maybe 3 months old. And so KRS comes out and I go, oh, hey, KRS, I'm a big fan. I tell him who I am. And I say, hey, man, I want to give you a demo because he was doing an event called Coolin' in Compton on behalf of K-Day. So all the people that were involved with K-Day Performing Arts got a chance to perform like one song.
Right.
And so, I got to open for KRS, if you want to put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I go, well, cool. I'm going to see him there. Let me give him my demo. Hopefully he likes it, whatnot. And so he takes the demo. I go, hey, can you take a picture of my kid? And so I got a picture of KRS holding a baby Tech, you know what I mean? At 3 months old. So show happens. I do my thing. And I'm waiting for KRS at the end of the show because I want to get feedback if possible. A lot of the cast that was with the performing arts was like, man, Chris ain't gonna talk to you. He ain't gonna talk to you. And they just kept bugging. And then so one of KRS's assistants comes on. It's like, hey, Click. Yeah, the teacher wants to talk to you. And then they all looked at me like, So I walked in and KRS signs my records and he tells me, the demo's cool, but I need more concept in my writing. And he gave me some great advice. It was great because a lot of the other cats were just envious when I walked back out. It's right. Like, how'd you get in there? So that's the KRS thing. What was the other question?
Rozelle, you got some.
So Rozelle, when I heard Rozelle, of course I'm a fan. I mean, the dude's incredible. So with Rozelle, I would see him when I'd go to New York for the Rocksteady crew anniversaries. We'd meet a few times here and there. And the dopest thing, man, I booked him for my 50th birthday party. I booked him to come out and perform. And he had said some words and stuff to the crowd that was there. And it was just so cool that he was like, back then we didn't have the internet and stuff. He goes, but we knew who Click Tha Supah Latin was. That was dope. It was dope that I made the Source magazine at one point, and I'm compared to like Rozelle, Buffy, Dougie, and to have my picture in the Source magazine was dope. But I think my first meeting with Rozelle was the Roots did an in-store at this record shop called Aaron's Records, and so I met him. I shook his hand, and so we started conversing, and I was like, "Hey, man, I could do clones." I said, I've been working on that. And he's like, yeah, let me hear it. And so I start doing the joint clones. And I look up as I'm going and I see the drummer.
Questlove.
So I'm doing my thing and I look up at Questlove and Questlove looks at Rozelle like this. Why is he doing clones? Like you need to, so we've had some great experiences, man. So me and Rozelle became really good friends, man. And it's a dude that I got mad respect for. He's a legend himself, man. I try to shout him out as much as possible, and also Kenny Muhammad, because to me those are two incredible beatboxers, man. Again, Kenny Muhammad got the drums. Rozelle got this presence, man. Like not everybody has what he has. My son Tech has that. I don't have that. Like I could rock a party and I could front, and I could do my thing, and I know how good I am, but like you will rarely ever catch me looking into your eyes, like literally, because it'll throw me off. Like I have to look between people. So it looks like I'm looking at people in the eyes, but I'm really not. I know me. Like, I'll forget something, a line or whatever. But Roselle, he's man, that confidence that you can exude like that. Like again, my son Tech has that too, man. I be watching him sometimes and like I'll take credit for like helping you with your gift and talent and stuff, but man, that confidence where you can stare somebody in the face and you don't get shook, like not everybody has that, man. Not everybody has that.
I understand that. I understand all about that.
You have that though.
I know. Click, how do you see the future of hip hop and sound engineering evolving?
Well, again, I think that if we just focus on teaching, the younger cats coming up, I think we'll be okay, man. I think we need people. There's a lack of the younger generation having access to things that they might like. Like I didn't know how much I was gonna like sound. Like man, I'm a sound fanatic. Like literally, I could be at a show, and if something bugs me, like it's like I have to go help. If I could be at a show and somebody could have the two speakers on stands and no subs. And like a big part of me wants to come home, grab subs, bring them back because I know how good the sound would be with the subs.
Right.
And so it's really just tapping into the youth, man. If we can get them to understand that there's different avenues in this hip hop thing, rapping ain't for everybody. You know what I'm saying? DJing ain't for everybody. I don't care how much you want to do it if you're not that good. Because I mean, again, I was a decent b-boy, but I wouldn't stand out like, like hey, like a Kid Swift or or a b-boy Ivan. Like I wasn't that good, but I was okay. And it's okay that I did break dance here and there. But there's strengths that we have that we could get, apply to hip hop and make a difference. And I just hopefully with Gemwork we can facilitate that by having actually one of Tech's biggest dreams is to have a school. So Gemwork is just the avenue and a path to that. But he really wants to have a school, like a school of the arts type of thing, where we teach presentation and song structure, composition, topics, and the main thing with Tech that I've always done is to really encourage him to think outside the box. Like I literally want him to be able to open up for Eric Clapton on a Wednesday and then go open up for Wu-Tang on a Thursday and not miss a beat. Like I want his range to be that.
Right.
So, but we don't have anybody out there really teaching that. It's stuck. It's stuck with this perception of like, no, this is how you rap, and this is it right here. And I'm like, no, man, like I've encouraged Tech, like when he's gotten into arguments with his wife, like I'm like, listen, man, if you can think about it, start writing how you feel. Right. Like that shit is real. When you see your son and it brings a tear to your eye because you just, wow, that's my son. Like right there, you ain't gotta make a record out of it, but write it down. Absolutely. Because you never know, man.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So, but I think that's the key though, is really reaching out to the kids and going, what do you like? Right. Oh, you want to rap? Okay, let's see what you got. Let's work on that. And what else you like? Oh, you like the speakers too. Okay, here, let me show you how these run and get them involved, man.
I love that answer. That's a great answer. It's a great answer. That was the last of my serious questions. I only have more lighthearted questions left. But before I get into those lighthearted questions, is there anything you want to get across to the people? Just anything you want people to know about yourself, about Gemwork, Click Sound, just anything you got?
Well, I mean, I think Click Sound, it's great. It's helped my life in terms of taking care of my family. But I think that the real thing that I think that needs to be always promoted is Gemwork Fest, man. Gemwork Gemwork Fest is a space where you as an independent artist can, experiment, number one, and also be yourself. And that's, I think, what lacks a lot in hip hop right now, man. Well, I know I say it is generally speaking. I know that if I go to different states, I'm gonna find original cats and dope artists. So I'm saying it just as in general. A lot of cats are stuck on just trying to make the money and almost embarrassed of how they feel. There was a rapper, man. I can't remember what his name was. You might remember, but he was getting clowned because he liked to bake. You know what I'm saying? I cannot remember his name. It's in the '90s. Um, in an interview or something, he said, and they were clowning the shit out of him. And I'm going like, what? Like, that's another business.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Absolutely.
so this thing in the hip hop where it's just, this, I don't know, man. It just not allowing people to be themselves, that needs to go away, man.
Yeah.
Because we're missing out on some great music. You know what I'm saying?
I
Some
agree.
great music.
I agree. Well said, my brother. Well said. All right. So now for the lighthearted questions. What was your favorite movie so far this year?
Movie this year, man. Hmm. I'm an old school head, man. I be watching, I watch old movies a million times over.
All right. Let me change the
Name a few. Name a few. I mean, not that I haven't watched any, but nothing is
I'm
coming
going
to
to
my
change the
mind right
question.
now.
What is
Okay,
your favorite movie of all time?
there's a couple, man. All right,
Give me the one that people might not have seen, the more rarer one.
Bugsy Malone.
Mm.
Bugsy Malone, for those who don't know, is it's a film that's supposed to be like have the from the era of like the speakeasies, like the '30s, the gangster era, like that. But the thing is that all the actors are children playing adults. There's no
Mm.
adults in this film. Jodie Foster's in it. She's about 13, I think. Scott Baio, same. And it's just it super creative, man. Super creative. That movie I watched when I was 9 years old, and not only did I not forget the film itself, but the soundtrack. Like the soundtrack was done by this cat named Paul Williams. He's a songwriter, but the soundtrack that's me as far as the creativity in my head and the kid part. He captured it so well, man. It's a I advise some of y'all may be a little slow here and there, but if you watch it, the concept of the movie and just the creativity, there's nothing else like it that I can think of. They drove around in cars that looked like the Model T Fords,
Yeah.
but they were pedals, but they were cars, but you pedal.
Right,
Like
right.
man, Bugsy Malone. That's probably
I heard of it. I've never seen it. I'm gonna look for it and watch it for sure, for sure.
next time you're over. If you ain't seen it, you can watch it here, bro.
All right, bet. Um, is there one food or food dish that in 2024 has been smashing it for you, tastier than any other food, like your go-to of 2024? A recent
Ooh,
memory, like what smashed it this year?
hot chicken.
Mm. Is it
Yeah,
from
hot
a
chicken.
specific place, made by yourself, made by?
No, you know what? We went to Memphis and we had it there, and not that it wasn't good. It was good. But then there's a spot here that's Dave's Hot Chicken, and they don't put as much batter on there, so you really get to taste the chicken more. Um, but man, I'm an eater, man. I like everything. But that stuck out to me. The hot chicken stuck out to me. And
If
my wife could cook too, man. So I'm spoiled.
if there was a movie about your life, who would play you as a main character?
Like a known actor or just anybody in general?
And anybody.
I probably I probably say my son because we look so much alike. But yeah, probably my son. I don't think I could think of any actor that I would say, oh no, he played me well.
What would be the title of your autobiographic movie and why?
Oh, Super Latin Legacy. And actually, we're working on it right now. Yeah, we're working on that right now, actually. Super Latin Legacy.
I love it.
But it's not what people think. Like it's here's the thing, man. It's not about me. Put it that way. It's not really about me. It's about a legacy, and I take it back to my grandma, my father's mom. She was an Inca Indian in Peru and who lived in the mountains, and she had came down to the city where she met my grandpa, and they had my dad. The thing is, there's like a story where they don't know if she got kicked out of the camp or if she left the camp. Right. So my dad used to be a jockey. He started off in Peru. His story is a trip to listen to. He ends up coming to America, makes it as a jockey out here. His career's climbing, but then he got hurt. He had to quit, and then he ended up being a janitor. So imagine you're a rising star, and you're making money, and then you become a janitor because you may be paralyzed if you take another tumble or whatever.
Yeah.
So then here I am. I'm in America, and now hip hop comes into my life, and I start my career, and I got a certain amount of success, but then it all goes back down to my grandma, who for some reason either got kicked out or walked down, and it all started with that jump, that move.
Right.
And so even though we're saying Super Latin Legacy, part of me was thinking about calling it the jump, because the thing is sometimes you just gotta just jump.
Right.
And wherever you land, that's where you land. You just keep moving. So if my grandma could see how far we got
because of that jump,
and that's what we're trying to create the storyline around, because not only do I have my story, my dad's story, my wife has her story, and it's totally unique in itself, man. When you see it, it's not going to be a 1 hour thing. This is going to be a limited series. I don't know how many we're going to do, but it cannot be encompassed in 1 hour.
Right.
That's what we're working on.
I love it. Well, I hope to see that soon.
Yeah, me too.
Gonna put some positive energy and prayers and meditation towards that.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
All right. So the last part of the show, I just say a random word, and you tell me the first word that comes to mind.
All right.
You ready? Sound.
God.
Universe.
Family.
Green.
Money.
Time.
Short.
Intuition.
Common sense.
Gratitude.
Peace.
Ancestors.
Life.
Children.
Hope.
And lastly, family.
World.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yo, Click, this has been one of my favorite interviews, for real.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Felt like we were sitting at your dinner table again.
Right? Yeah, man.
Well, my brother, this has been another episode of the Cymarshall Law Show. He is Click Tha Supah Latin. Do not forget it. My name is Cymarshall Law. This is the Cymarshall Law Show. We love y'all. Until next time, peace, love, and positive energy. And we out like that. Thanks, Click.
Peace. Yeah, man.